Hey everybody, thanks for visiting us here at Cooking with G Dubs, and I'm your host, G Dubs. And what I'm going to cook for you today is a Haitian-inspired soup called Soup Joumou. And I'm going to use the ingredients that you see in front of me today. And now it's starting to get cool, so many people are going to be moving in from eating a whole meal to eating a soup. So I'm going to start making you several different soup dishes, and I'm going to start with this one. This is a Haitian favorite. And I know when I was growing up, my parents would make this and we would love it. So without further delay, let me introduce you to the things that I'm using. All right. So the meat that I'm going to put in the stew or in the soup is beef stew. And I have some cubed steak that I got already pre-cut. And I'm going to use 2 packets of it because I'm going to cook enough for the week. And I'm going to use, this here is a butternut squash. And I'm going to also add some red potatoes, and I'm going to use a cabbage. I'm going to use some celery, and here I'm going to have some green onion, and then I'm going to use some green bell peppers, red bell peppers, and I'm going to use some zucchini. I'm going to chop this up, and I'm also going to use some red onions, and I'm going to use some shredded carrots. And I'm also going to use some mushrooms, some sliced mushrooms. And I'm also going to use my Èpís. And if you'd like to know what's in this, you check out my YouTube channel, and I have all the ingredients that's listed. That is what makes this up. And this is one of the mainstays of all the dishes that I cook on this channel. Check it out, have it in your refrigerator. So every time you cook, you have your Èpís, so you'll be good to go. And something special that I'm going to add to it is something that I made for my son because he likes spicy foods. And those of you who like spicy foods, I have here some pickled habanero peppers. So this is very, very spicy. And in some dishes of the Èpís or the soup joumou, a lot of folks like to put the habanero peppers in it. But some people like spicy, some people don't. In my family, I like a little spicy. My youngest son loves it very spicy, and my wife don't like it spicy at all, and my oldest son don't like it at all. So we'll add it, and that's why I have it here to the side, so that way we can add it to the meal after it's all done, so that way everybody could have it the way they want. And also in this dish that I'm going to show you, I'm not going to put the meat mixed in. I'm going to have it to the side, so that way you can make it with beef, you can make it with pork, you can make it with chicken, whatever you desire. All right. And then, oh, I forgot, we're going to be using red potatoes. All right. So without further delay, let's start prepping everything, and then we're going to start assembling it. All right. So in my prepping process, it's a lot of work, but I wanted to show you what it looks like after you skin the butternut squash. As you see here, I use my peeler to peel the skin off, and then I sliced it in half. And what I did was, after I peeled it, I cut the top and the bottom off, and then I slit it in half. And then now we have the insides. And what we're going to do is, some people like to save the insides and dry it out so they could use and roast it so that they could use it as like a little snack, but we're not going to do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the insides out. All right. And then I'm going to finish cleaning it up, and I'm chop it up, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. All right. So here we go. This is how I got my butternut squash chopped up into small pieces like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it boil for about 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, then I'm going to add my potatoes to it, and then let it cook for another 30 minutes. And then after that, then we're going to take the butternut squash out, then we're going to put it in the blender, liquefy it, and then we'll take it to the next step. All right. So while that's cooking, I'm also going to have my beef cooking at the same time. So then that way they'll both be done at approximately the same time. And this is what I did with the beef. After I washed it with vinegar and hot water, we washed it, and then I put my Èpís in it. So right now, the way the Èpís, and I put Èpís and salt, that was it. And the way I did it is I let it marinate for the last like 20 minutes. So then that way, both will be cooking simultaneously. So that by the time it's all done, it'll be all done together, and we can combine everything together. All right, we'll be right back. All right, so now it's time for us to make our beef. We'll pour it in. As you could tell, our skillet was nice and hot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this cook for about 45 minutes, just like the squash. And we're gonna let this cook together. And while this is cooking, we're gonna finish our prep so we get all of our vegetables ready. All right, we'll be right back. All right, now it's been about 30 minutes. And what I have now is the butternut squash is really, really soft now, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this out and I'm gonna put it through my blender here. And we're going to make it into a liquid form. All right. And then after we do that, then we're going to put it back in the water. But what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit for a minute. And then what we're going to do is put our potatoes in so our potatoes could go ahead on and start cooking. All right. So I took my squash and I put it in my Vitamix. Put a little water in there. And you will see what it's going to turn up. And mind you, you can be able to buy in the organic section of your local grocery store, you can buy a box of your butternut squash soup, or it's pureed already, and then you could jazz it up this way. But I'm going to show you how to do it from scratch, so that way you guys can do it at home real easy. All right, so now I have my butternut squash in. We're going to turn it on, and we're going to bring the heat up, or the speed up really, really slowly. And I pureed it in my Vitamix, so it made it almost like a really thick, almost the same consistency, almost like porridge, either porridge or a little bit thicker than grits. Not coarse like grits, but you see, look at that. This is what it turned out to be. And what we're going to do is, in some Haitian dishes, or in the authentic Haitian way of doing it, they would take this and they would run it through a strainer to get any kind of thickness out of it. But since I use a Vitamix, it cut it down really, really fine, so it makes it real easy. So I wouldn't have to do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cut potatoes and I'm going to boil it in the same water. I added some more, and we're going to boil this for about a good 25 to 30 minutes, all right, until it gets soft. And then I'm also going to add into the potatoes my cabbage, so then that way it'll all cook together, because I like my cabbage to be nice and soft. And then also what I did is I have my celery right here. What I did is I have my celery, my onions, and my green onions, or otherwise known as scallions. I forgot it earlier, sorry about that, but I just remembered. So we put our scallions, but we're going to put the onions and the scallions or green onions later. But for now, we're going to put our celery in, so it all boiled together. So then that way our celery will be nice. It'll give some really good flavor to our soup. And then it'll get soft, so it won't be too crunchy when we're eating it. All right? So we're gonna let that boil together. And you'll see, when we put it all together, it's going to look absolutely delicious. And the Haitian way of making the legume, instead of using potatoes, they use some yams. But in this case, We can't find it here in our area locally where I am, but so I'm using the potatoes instead, the red potatoes. And there's another ingredient that they use is a turnip, but I couldn't find it because we're out of season for that as well. So now we're going to have this, we're going to let this boil, and then we're going to blend it all together. All right? All right. So now approximately about an hour and 20 minutes have gone by, and this is what our beef looks like. All right? So what I'm going to do is, it has a little bit of color, as you can see. And what I'm going to do now, because the beef is nice and tender now, and because we're not going to combine it with the soup Joumou, we're going to keep it on the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bit of a gravy with this. And what I'm doing is I'm getting all of the scrapings at the bottom off, because that also adds flavor. I'm going to add a little bit of water. All right, so I'm going to add the water. As you see, add some water. And that's going to make a nice gravy. And I'm not going to get too fancy with it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add my onions. Not all of it, but I'm going to add some onions to give it some flavor. And I'm going to add some of the green onions with it too. And then I'm also going to add some of the peppers. And as you know, all of this is going to add a whole lot of flavor to our meat. And doesn't that look pretty? Look at that. There's beautiful color. Let me add a few more of the peppers. And then I was going to use tomato paste, but I looked at my fridge and I don't have any. So I'm going to have this Indian seasoning, and it's called tikka masala curry sauce. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this, and it's a tomato-based sauce. And the whole purpose of this one is just to have it to add to the sauce or to the soup when after it's done. All right? So what we're going to do with this is we're going to let this simmer together. And mind you, you can use tomato paste to make the gravy, or you could use whatever gravy you want. But the whole purpose of this is, again, is to add to the soup Joumou when it's cooked, all right? And I'm making it, the soup Joumou, the way I'm preparing it is going to be vegan, so it's not going to have any vegetables, or no, it's not going to have any meat in it. So not vegan, but vegetarian. It's going to be 100% vegetarian, so it's not going to have any meat. So then that way, if you do not want meat in your diet, you can have it this way. Or if you want to have meat, you can add the meat to it, all right? So then that way it gives you some flexibility when you're preparing a meal for your family, all right? And as you see, my pot is huge, so this is for my family, and this will last us for several days, so that's why it's so big. Now, let us check on our soup to see how that's coming along. Oh, wow. The cabbage is coming along very well. Let's check our potatoes. Oh, yeah. Our potatoes are almost soft. So now what we're going to do at this point is we're going to add the rest of our vegetables, the ones that don't take long. For example, we have our zucchini squash. I'm going to dump it in. Now we're going to add some of our onions. So we'll have a wonderful flavor all throughout. Now we're going to add our peppers. And we're going to add our, and we got to add our sliced mushrooms. So we have all these vegetables in here, So it's a meal all in itself. Good thing I have this big, huge pot. All right. Yes, look at that. Oh man. My family's going to be happy, happy, happy. All right. So while everything is starting to blend together, what I'm going to do now is we're going to add our butternut squash to it. Look at that. Woo, 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 woo. Well, don't forget, I'm going to have all of the list of ingredients that I'm using is going to be in the description, so you can check it out. Just in case you didn't catch everything in the beginning, it's going to all be in the description, okay? Now, once everything starts to blend together, we're going to check it for taste. And then if you want some extra flavor, you can add some chicken broth at this point. And that's what I'm going to do. I have about 20 ounces of chicken broth that I'm only going to add just for flavor. Okay, here goes. This is my chicken broth. Just add it to it just to give it some flavor, okay? And in a few minutes, we're going to check it for taste. Let everything just start to sweat together, and we'll check it out. All right? Don't that look beautiful? It looks beautiful. All these different colors. All right? So I know there's a lot of Haitians out there checking me out. And this is not the traditional soup Joumou. It's a variation of it. It's my way of doing it. That's why it's called Cooking with G-Dubs. So I could teach people healthy ways to eat. All right, so you could eat it with meat or without. You can have it with a lot of vegetables or not as many. All right, but at the end of the day, it's the flavor that counts. All right, so we're gonna give this about a good 10-15 minutes, and we'll check back on it in a few minutes. So now it's time to taste. Our soup is looking real scrumptious right now. This soup Joumou is off the chain. So now we gotta taste it to make sure. We need to add this or that. Okay, so now we need to add some Èpís. Because remember, we didn't add any seasoning so far. It was just in the meat, not in here. We just add a little bit of salt, but not much. So we gotta add some Èpís. 1, 2, 3. Our seasonings. And also we gotta add our salt. We haven't added any salt yet. This is a big, huge pot, so I have to add quite a bit of salt. But of course, those of you who are watching, you can be able to add salt to taste, just to make sure that it's right for you and your family. Now we have it all done up. That's right, it's just right. All right, we'll give it another 5 more minutes and we're ready to plate. All right, everybody, now we have it plated, it's ready to go, and I'm going to combine it. So as I told you before, you can have it, the meat together mixed in from the pot, or you could add it to it. Whichever way suits your family's needs, you can do it that way. What's very common is when Haitians make it, they make it with beef, but you can also do it with pork, or if you don't want to mess with the red meat, you could be able to do it with chicken or chicken breast. Or what you could do it with, what'll be really nice if you take chicken breast and mix it with chicken thighs, like boneless, just chop them up, mix them together, season them, saute them, and then add it to the soup Joumou, and it'll taste beautiful. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add everything. So I have my soup here and I let it sit for about 5 minutes so that it'll cool off because I don't want to burn my tongue. And here's my beef and I'm gonna add it to it. Okay, get a little bit of that sauce on there. And then also, like I showed you before in the beginning, we have our pima, or our pickled habanero peppers. And you don't want too much of this because this will put a serious kick to it, all right? I'll put a little bit more. All right, but this is really, really spicy, all right? Now I'm going to mix it together. And this is what it looks like. Check that out. Doesn't that look scrumptious? Now it's time for me to let you know what it tastes like. I'm gonna take some of the squash, some of the beef and the sauce. Wow. I got it. This is really, really, really good. And that little pima adds that little bit of kick to it. Burns in the back of your throat, but delicious. I can't wait for you to try it. If you like it, like and subscribe down below. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Don't forget to, well, don't forget to tell somebody you like, somebody you love, and somebody you care about our channel, how to cook healthy, how to cook quickly, and how to make very wonderful, outstanding dishes for you and your family. This one is a dish that's very common and very popular in the Haitian community, and I wanted to share that with you. All right, thanks so much for visiting us here at Cooking with G-Dubs. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave your comments down below what you think about it, all right? Talk to you later until the next video. Peace.